So the other thing is we're on over 100 acres of land. So we go all the way out there and we go all the way over to the another street over on the other side. So a fairly large facility. So we have plenty of room to expand. So not only build this building up, we could build a second building or a third building. So all the testing we have, our quality labs, we're going to show you where we do all the analytical testing on inbounds and on finished product. Same as in the nutritional and dietary supplements. On the confectionery, we actually did the same thing in pet food. When I worked for Mars at Pedigree, we tested just like we did for food because you have to meet the same label claims for pets. So strict guidelines everywhere in the United States on how we follow that. Okay? So what I'm going to show you is the first is our quality lab. So you can imagine, you know, like H24, all of the nutritional dietary supplements, all the testing. So all raw materials that come in, even though we get a certificate of analysis, we still test it and verify it, and then we make sure there's no micro. So everything gets tested for micro and analytical. And then when we finish the product, they take samples for every product that we make, every lot. And they do the same thing, then they do the finish analytical. And then the same with mine, to ensure that the integrity of the product meets the label claim as well as the safety and the purity of the product that we're making. So lab does, boy, I'm trying to remember how many hundreds of thousands of tests they do a year. Oh yes. When you think about how many lots we make, so we have to do tests on every lot, every raw material that comes in. So, and some may require 20 tests, depending on the analyticals and especially on finished product. So if you got 10 different vitamins or dietary supplements, you got to do all 10 different tests on that. And then all the different tests on all the different types of micro, right? Salmonella, E. coli, listeria, all the different types of things to make sure everything is good. So we do a lot of the graphics here so that you can get kind of a view of what you're going to be walking out and seeing. So we're actually, because of the amount of testing going on in the lab, we're actually investing $5 million, which is doubling the lab size. We're in the middle of a lab expansion right now. The good thing is here, on average, we spend between $20 and $30 million a year in capital, continuing to, one, enhance the building and do continuous improvement on new projects or new products. If they launch any new products, so Sachet was a product where we did pouching. We didn't have that 3 years ago, so we've launched that. So we continue to invest every year in improving our operation. Okay. So we're going to go around the corner, get you a first view of kind of what's behind this wall.
What's behind the wall?
And it's hard to see here because you're under a mezzanine, but when you get out in the open space, you'll see how big it is.
Shake.
So one of the things we do have to do, we have to wash our hands before we go into the plant. So and how you do that, you step on that paddle and operate the water. So you can do this. If it doesn't work, usually you can tap on this and then it come out the bottom. Is yours coming out? Imagine since we ship our product all over the world, we take our product and we actually put it in stability chambers that replicate whether it's in the US or North America or whether it's Athens, the dry, high temp, hot and dry, hot and very humid Indonesia or Rio. And that's so to make sure we understand what happens in those different countries, what does, because bottles is a barrier, but will still absorb. And so making sure that the shelf life and the integrity of the product doesn't get degraded over time. And that's help us make sure we have the right shelf life across different, because they may have to reformulate slightly different if it's in a different region to ensure that the product doesn't, the shelf life stays at least at 1 or 2 years that it's designed for. So we're constantly monitoring that. Basically starting all the way up the source, understanding where that came from, and this gets into, there's really a lot of focus on GMOs and non-GMO, right? Because I know in Europe it's really non-GMO, and the focus is trying to make sure, do we understand where all of our products are starting at from the very beginning, when it gets planted in the ground, all the way to where it's getting processed. So if we look at the multiple steps, where we actually go to different farms and actually inspect and make sure that nothing changes to that. They're not using any pesticides or using things that can compromise the integrity of the product. So what I talked about is none of our first round of testing, right? When it comes in, it gets tested. So we do our testing, and then as we process it, we make the manufacturing process, we test it again. So when we make a blend, every blend, so every 1,500 kilos we make, we do a sensory. So we discharge it, take samples, we do a sensory. And that's to ensure that the taste, the flavor, the texture meets what is in our specifications. And how many blends do you normally do a day? About 40 to 60?
Yeah, this is right around there, yes.
So you can imagine every one of those, before we can package it, they've got to do a sensory test. All right? And that shows the tableting, which is really in like China. We don't do tablet manufacturing at this site, but then we do another round of testing, and it's done, right? So we have to make sure once we're done, as I mentioned, now it's in the bottle, doesn't meet the label. The sensory still good, and doesn't meet all the attributes that we have on our label. To ensure that everything that you're using meets what it says it's doing. They keep us healthy and fit. And then once it's done, it actually goes to the, it's actually down there, but that is our final round of testing. So we do the uniformity on power blends, which is what I mentioned. We do the raw material coming in, the final product testing, and then when we ship it to our distribution centers, the distribution centers inspect it also. So they'll go in there and audit it to make sure the label's correct, the bottle's in good shape, there's no quality defects around anything on that product before it gets packed or ready to ship out. So the same thing would happen when we ship a full container over to Europe, and then when it gets to the DCs, and they go through that same process. Because we get notified if they find any type of defects on the attributes of the packaging. So whether it's a poor label or a dented bottle or there's something else that's good. And then as you know, once the distributors are there to, what's your order? Okay, we're picking, packing it, and shipping it to you.
And so you guys watch your stuff down here. We have a sanitation crew that runs 24 hours a day. They clean the floors, they clean the warehouse, they clean the entire plant. So you're just not going to catch us right cleaning this area. So stay here right here, and then we're going to make a lap.
Right. So this is our quality assurance lab. So this is where we're doing a lot of what I call the physical kind of checking labels, checking bottles, checking all the physical attributes of our packaging. Because most of the sampling that's done for the raw materials is done, and you'll see it in a sampling room, which is then sent over to QC to be tested. So you got QA, quality assurance, and you got quality control, which does all the testing and micro. So you've got anything else that, I mean, most of the attributes and following the specifications, following the guidelines that we have to follow.
Sensory, making sure lot codes and everything are correct. In addition, we do all allergen swabbing to make sure, we have no cross contact of allergens, to keep everyone safe.
So you imagine we got soy, we got milk, we got peanut, we got
sesame.
So after every major cleanup equipment, they actually do the swabbing to make sure there's no detection of any allergen. Because you don't want somebody who is allergic to milk, and we're going from one product from milk to another soy product, and all of a sudden there's a milk residue left. And so we've really, allergens in the U.S. is our #1 recall by the FDA. You go in and look on their website, and the one recall for companies is their allergen control program, because of the impact it has to people that are allergic to allergens.
And we also do gluten-free, so everybody that has insensitivities to gluten, we want to ensure that
That's a big one for us. Yes. So I want you guys to take a look down, even though we're not going to go down there, but you may have seen it in the pictures, but this is actually where our soy and fructose transfer points are. So we hang these super sacks that usually weigh about 1,000 kilos. And then basically they're hung up, and then basically it goes into a charge vessel, and then we vacuum transfer it up to the 3rd floor, where we use vessels on load cells to actually automatically weigh it out and then batch it, so we get consistency every time. So it'll transfer it up here, and it's loading it, and it goes up. You're at 400 kilos, stop. And now we have that part of it done. So fructose and soy is all done through our automated system here. The other products are all done by hand because, as you can imagine, we may have 30 ingredients in a blend. Those have to be weighed out. So you have full containers, and then you got the small 25.6. Well, I got to weigh out, 22 kg container. I got to weigh out 3.6 kg. So we have a weigh room area that we do all the weighing, and they kit it all together. And then this up on the 3rd floor, and they'll layer it, and then they'll charge that on the 3rd floor. Then you get your blend. Why are you using kilos? That's the way our entire system, our ERP system, is set up under kilos. Yeah, we use metric for that. Yeah, we don't use pounds, or everything's in grams, kilograms, and that's the way our ERP system is set up. And that's the way it's been everywhere I've worked. It's always been in kilos. Which is interesting. Manufacturing, that's the way it's set up. But we do everything else, outside of here is in pounds, or the storage in pounds. But all in manufacturing is set up in kilos. In the metric. So one of the other things you'll see way down in the blue, you see the little blue room down there on the floor? That's where we do all of our sampling. That's our sampling booth that we sample all of our raw materials. So what happens is they bring in the raw materials, and I may have 1,000 containers. The way you sample is you take the square root of the number of containers that came in plus 1. So if you had 100, and 10 plus 1, and we sample 11 containers to get a kind of a good profile to make sure that the consistency of the raw material is They do all their sampling down there and then sent to the QC lab for their final analytical and micro. We're very thorough on everything we do. CMA is nice. But we don't know if somebody at the other company may not have done something right. We're going to re-verify that and meet our testing. So a very good process to make sure what you get is what it says is in that box. Yeah, you see it ready to bring that super sack and you pick it up 20 feet up in the air. You have some of the blue, which is tea, so yellow is powder. That would last you probably less than 2 days. So we burn through a lot of blends every day. So we keep things moving and rotating through.
See, what was the difference between yellow and blue?
Yellow is our powders. The blue is our committed to fruit. And the green is pre-mix states. So we have to pre-mix it before we blend them upstairs with the blending. So depending on the product, like H24, because of the dietary supplements, the vitamins, you have to do a premix before you can charge that into the blender. And that's just to make sure we got the uniformity of the spread. Into the window here. So remember when I talked about, we do weighing and then what we call layering. So what happens is you got all your bulky materials like soy and fructose, but then all the smaller components, we layer them into a tote, basically full containers and weighed containers, and then that becomes that super sack. You see the green one that went by, that's going to go up on the 3rd floor and get charged into the blender. And that way you're not trying to open all this upstairs over a blender, you keep everything controlled down here. So it's just part of the blending and batching process. So we have 6 of these rooms. We just built these 4 out. 2 of them aren't finished yet, but that's for our future growth. So all this just got done in the last 6 months. You can look down there. These first 2 doors is all of our layering. You can come on down if you guys want to see it. This is when we do all of our weighing and layering. And then at the very end, you'll see the last 3 doors. That's actually where we discharge our blenders into those yellow super sacks. So once it's done, we charge, it's 1,500 kilo batches, and they get charged into 2 750 kilo super sacks. And that's what we use for what we charge and put up above for our packaging. And you can see the size of it, so you can see kind of where the floor changed, that was our expansion. So this was all warehouse space, and we took it away and continue to expand our manufacturing. And then down at the other end is where our tea manufacturing is. So those are where we have our fluid bed dryers that granulates the tea to the right particulate size. So we have 3 fluid bed dryers that make our teas. And basically we can make about 45 batches a day. Now those batches are only 450 kilos, a little bit smaller than the 1,500 in pound. And that's just the design of the bowl of a fluid bed dryer, okay? But again, we run that operation 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. And we have room for 1 more, so we have a room that's already built out. We're just waiting to put the next piece of equipment in if we continue to see our volume grow. So again, you can imagine if our biggest year was 80 million, we can do 150. We have 10 packaging lines, we're only using 6 of them. Wow. Right? So that gives you an idea of how much capacity we have, and we're only running 2 shifts. We can run 3 shifts. So, for us, we have a lot of capacity at this site. We could definitely supply you, with almost 100% growth of where we're at today. There are some very unique products. We do the higher volume, so those things come by homemade manufacturing. Okay. Not only well, so watch this. Look at the right here. give you guys a little extra. I'm gonna let you go down and see the liquid line before we make our aloe.
Yay!
So you gotta stay close to me here. You hold up. Try to stay inside the yellow. Right, that lets you know there's a forklift. You're gonna get your steps in too. We try to make sure you get lucky. Smell the aloe when you come down?
Yeah.
So our expansion is we built this space, we're going to add a second aloe line once we see the volume right. There's a little bit of flatness on our aloe. Watch yourself doing it. Can't get much closer, but you can look in there and see the floor. The fill in the bottle. The bottles come out. We actually put a burst of nitrogen in there. The reason is because if you don't, it starts to candle. When you start to come out. And then you can see the laser here. So we run about 60,000 bottles. Yeah, I mean this is all because of kind of what we're gonna do with it. It's kind of a tight spot.
Okay, can you explain to me why our teas are granulated? So they're like in powder things, because it's not as usual for a lot of people, and they always ask us, and I try to explain it, but I think it's gonna be good if they hear it from you.
You're talking about for tea. Why is
Yes.
it granulated?
Yes.
And actually that's to get your consistency of your particle size, so when it dissolves, so your uniformity, so when you put it in there, it actually should dissolve more efficiently.
Yeah.
Because if you don't granulate it, you may get solid particles and you may not. So the whole pre-processing and then the granulation just helps.